So one of NU's big, major, important tournaments has finally concluded. And this is the finals matches we have. Very interesting series for sure. First thing I want to do is real quick look at Elias's team. Y'all noticing a little bit of similarity across them? What is going on here, bro? Bro brought basically the same team every game, which I found really funny. And even CS's team has huge similarities across every single one. Look, notice that Hatcham plus Scyther. Every game, Hatcham plus Scyther. Which says to me, this is Hat for magic mounts to support a Scarf Scyther. And why do I say that? Well, one, I know this first team. That's the Choice Band of Simeon. This team, I don't actually know, but Scarf Croak is not very used at all. And in this last game, I mean, again, Scarf Croak isn't really used at all. And this Zoroark, I just know what it uses in the battle, so yeah, a little cheating, I guess, on that one, but same idea. And yeah, let's get into it. And before I start this, I'm going to give you all one more challenge. We hit our goal of, I think it was 7 likes, I don't remember how many, but we hit it. And now I'm going to go one step further. If we get a single member joining the channel after this video, I will upload for a week for members only. So, I'll throw it out there. Again, that costs money, so only if you can afford to. But hey, it's there. Anyhow, this first game, nothing happens. I could not tell you a single thing from this game that felt like a significant, like, turn at all. There was, like, 2 turns, I guess, that I found interesting in terms of how they went. But that's about it. This turn was not one of them, but I did see this turn and roll my eyes a bit because I'm so tired of seeing people go Scyther versus this Cacturn. Mostly because of how much they take from Dark Pulse every time they do. But this turn I found a little interesting just because Elias was so happy to stay in a Knock versus a Passimian. The Knock works out really well for him, of course, because of the band no longer being on the pass, so he didn't actually risk being KO'd. As he said, the Rotom Frost was a Blizzard. Realistically, it's not like the worst thing ever, but it is annoying, because you'll see throughout every battle, this is just Rest Talk to attack Ursaring. So it's not ever a threat to win the game, but it is still a very annoying Pokemon, and I am going to turn this down real quick. Don't worry, nothing happened while we were gone. We see that this Drifblim is Shadow Ball, though, and so, based on the next turn as well, I guess this is offensive Drifblim? I say based on the next turn, this is not the next turn. But I guess this is offensive Drifblim if he's Shadow Ball, which is certainly interesting. Not something that you've really ever seen in you. And the Sandaconda's just gonna Earthquake here. Pass is always gonna come out versus the Cacturn. It is Dark Pulse, so I mean, the Scyther could have got God. I'm really... Yeah, so if we go back to that earlier turn real quick. If we can find it. It was really early. This turn right here, I'm a little surprised it didn't Dark Pulse, because if you look at ZS's team, it's not like there's any good Dark Pulse switching. I guess I'm worried about the Passimians, that's why Leaf Storm happens instead, but I don't know. Dark Pulse just still feels free. You're making good chip against Pass. It could still be a bulkier Cacturn, I suppose, if you're thinking you're not going to do that much damage. Yeah, okay, 33 is pretty underwhelming. Maybe that was the right play. Anyhow, Conda comes in here. Scyther Terras, and this is where we start seeing some interesting stuff, too, with the Drifblim. Not this turn, but in a couple, because this Drifblim gets, like, packed up by Terra Aerial Ace. And I ran calcs. Even if Drifblim is just max defense, no HP investment, you're only taking, like, 53 maximum. Which I thought was interesting. We see just a lot of, like, turn exchanging here. CS just end up sacrificing his Passimian so you can get the Scarf Scyther in. Yeah, so here's the Drifblim turn. I found this very funny because it's just gone. So, I don't know if this was Scarf or something. It outsped the Rotom Frost, which... surely it's Scarf, right? The only thing is there's a Passimian. And so, I would assume this to be Scarf anyway. I don't remember the damage it was doing. It might have been Banded Passimian as well. If we look back up in the chat. Knockoff doing 26 to an opposing Passimian. That kinda seems banded to me, so maybe it's banded past Scarf Blim. Because otherwise, I mean, again, we know this is offensive, because why in the world did you just get blasted that badly? So we see that, and honestly, I was looking at this game and thinking, because I actually didn't get to catch this one live, so I'm looking at the replay and just going, oh, this looks pretty okay for ZS. You know, I would have rested here, but Earthquake is also a very good play. If he gets too greedy and slams, then, okay, he just gets picked off later on. And actually, now that I look at the team, this isn't even rest. This is just Wish Pass, and then to attack Glare Stealth Rock, so he never had rest there. Grit here is nice, but with the Ursaring back at full, yeah, this is not good, because when I looked at teams, Hatcham isn't ever touching Ursaring, and Vapo's almost been KO'd. So Pat's gonna come out here, because it's ZS's only response to Ursaring, and he does get some good fortune there, but then the crunch comes out the next turn. And he's gonna wake up, so he can just crunch very, very safely. Also, just the damage because of Guts going away is crazy to me. And yeah, I looked at the game from here, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is actually terrible. So we're gonna see the Terra Fairy to block potential CC, but, I mean, this U-turn doesn't, you know, obviously do any damage either now. And the Vapo's too low, so it doesn't take us hit. And then Eviolite would have needed to crit. And, I mean, Elias just takes game 1. This is what I mean by this game felt very uneventful. I'm like, everything in the early and mid game kind of just went as per usual, except for the weird Driplim damage. And then all of a sudden, Ursaring late game just kind of sits around and wins. And he irons game 2. This game, much more happens, and we're going to see why the move Coil should be banned from Inu, just given what ZS's team does. You can look at it, there's 3 Pokemon on this team known for Coil sets, which I think is hilarious. But as we pointed out at the very start of the video, you've got again this Scyther Hatcham core. You got a Croak as well. Croak is pretty strong. I just said pretty so many times there. But this matchup, I mean, look at it. Especially if you're like Nasty Plot Croak. You kind of just farm this team, so yeah, let's see how this goes. Again, the theme is Coil, so I'm sure you could probably figure out where I'm getting at. Hatcham's always going to come out versus Conda. You're always going to EQ, because you don't feel like ceding a free turn to the Hat. And just like last battle, the Ursaring will always come in versus his Hatcham. It will say, no luck for you. You don't get to do anything. And sooner or later, though, we're going to see this eel, not this eel, the Sandaconda is going to decide that it wants to Coil. And this Hat will no longer be a check. But first, we see that this is actually just Assault Vest eel. And this is really strong, this match, because you've got the Jolteon over here. And this mod should never really do anything at all, unless it spams Volt literally the entire battle and always gets the play right between ZS going Sandaconda versus Electros. Because the slow U-turn always allows you to get your Scarf Scyther and then just revenge kill. So, having this set actually just took the Jolteon out of the game entirely, so I really like this bring. Again, the Ursaring will always rest when it gets like around half. There's no reason for you to let this mon get too low, especially because you have a Eviolite, so you don't have that extra passive recovery that Leftovers would offer you. But also because you want to keep Ursaring around long term, so you can keep switching into Eel at least, and Hat. Like, yeah, Eel's always going to get the U-turn on you afterwards, but you don't want to let it spread paralysis across your team. You don't want to risk getting caught by coverage. You don't want to risk getting, you know, Dragon-tailed around. Stuff like that. And like, character switches on the EQ. Eel can always come out versus this as well, as a little spike goes up. And I mean, yeah, every time Conda comes in, this is just a very safe Hat turn. Obviously, getting the spike up is a little bit meh, but it's not that bad. And we do see Eel just come right back in, because yeah, why would you not? Eel walls pretty much every Sandaconda. I mean, Stone Edge hurts, but it doesn't do that much. So no need to let Hat take that extra damage. May as well keep it around for later. And now, here's where the coiling begins. Unless I'm mistaken. Ah, I'm not mistaken, so rest right back up to full. Okay, I'm mistaken, no! It's hard to remember how these battles go, but you're gonna see it very soon. You're gonna see the Sandaconda is gonna go for Coil. Come on, yes. Now it begins. So we're gonna see an EQ first, and now we're gonna see the Coil. And Coil Eel, or not Eel, God. Coil Conda is now going to make this Hatcham, I was gonna say it's son, but it's a girl. but I'll still say it's Sun. It's gonna make the Hatchimate Sun. Because this mod doesn't actually beat you anymore. The character can come in, it can get God. Nice veteran chip damage right there. It'll switch. There's no reason to stay in. This Sucker Punch made absolutely no sense to me when I saw it. I'm like, what the hell? Why didn't you just leave Snort? He's gotta be very slow then. Worried that the, he doesn't have to be very slow, I guess. Because a lot of Coil Conda will run max speed. But, I mean, God, Sucker Punch for Chip is just so sad to see. You don't know. The Sucker makes so much more sense now that I put a little bit of thought into it. He's worried about being slower. And Conda's gonna outspeed anyway, so you might as well get that little chip. It just feels very weird to see a character use Sucker Punch versus a coiled up Sandaconda. And now Fire Giraffe come in, and I'll be honest, when I saw this Fire Giraffe get a switch in, I thought it was about to put in some work. Substitute here was a very, very scary play as a spectator. And he goes and turns into a Terra Fairy type. This was very early in my view, but I think he wanted to make sure that U-turn didn't ever break sub. I just feel you could have gone for, I don't know, man. I feel like you had a better out. You could have saved your Terra for, like, when Scyther was out or something. Maybe force it to U-turn on you as you then, sub up. But, anyhow, the Dun comes in, and you're about to see, again, the Coiling, Part 2. Because these full paras were absolutely vile. And Elias was very content to keep slamming his head into a wall versus the Dun. It's not like he has a great answer to it anyway, because Conda's just gonna kind of sit around doing nothing. Jolteon isn't, like, strong enough without boosts to really get anything going. And so, with enough good paralysis, this Dunsparce is going to set up as much as it wants. It is going to recover as much health as it wants. And the Giraffe will inevitably fall. And as you see, eventually it's just straight up forced out, because, yeah, I mean, you stay in, you're not beating this mon at any time. You go Sandaconda, only to double switch, and what happens another coil. Now, I thought as a spectator Encore was coming out here, but no, he just leaves Storms. I think he was trying to force the switch. He knew by going Sandaconda that there's a decent shot. ZS gets a little greedy, goes for another coil, and so if you then go Cacturn the next turn, well, Encore Cacturn's a pretty standard set. You put the fear of God into him, make him think, oh, I'm gonna get Encore locked in and I'm gonna lose 1v1. But no, ZS just doesn't care. Coils up again, slams the Cacturn. Nothing bad to see here. And now the Jolteon's gonna come and try to win. Now, I remember I messaged one of my friends, I'm like, why the hell did he bite? I think ZS had just forgotten Terra had been used here. Was predicting a Terra Ghost maybe to come out from Jolteon on the predicted Body Slam. And so it does actually cost him a little bit. The Dunsparce getting paralyzed is potentially very risky. Also, again, he goes for Bite. I don't know what's going on there. But that full para sucks too. I think this actually was in range of Terra Blast. Unboosted. It might have been a close damage roll, but potentially could have just lost his Dun. And Elias goes for CM, kind of just, I think, banking on a full para there. But doesn't come through. The Dunsparce gets that last Body Slam off, and yeah. Game 3, after a wild, a wild turn of events in this game, the Dunsparce found that one turn to start setting up. They needed that one little break in luck. And now we're going to see the luck kind of flip the script entirely. And yeah, as we said, from I started a video, ZS and Elias bringing very similar things across every game. This game we see 2 Ursarings, which is very scary. And Elias' sets, I'm here to tell you, they're not the same entirely. Most of them are, but this Cacturn puts in overtime this game. You'll see what I mean once we get near the end. But if we're going for just a team preview stance, I mean, the Croak looks okay. Nasty Plot in particular would be pretty devastating, or just any special variant. Also do still continuously like the Scarf Scyther, especially when you pair it with a Zoroark. Zoroark potentially able to learn that Conda and just cripple it so Scyther can clean up late game. It's very nice. And from preview, you also kind of like the angle of your Ursaring, because what's stopping it? You know Elias is always using Rest Talk to attack, so it's not like this is cursing up in front of you. And you know a Terra Fairy that you should probably be able to withstand Scyther pretty alright. So let's see how this goes. Anyhow, we see a Whiscash lead. And this mon is terrible. And we're going to see it use Ice Beam turn 1, only to do like 5% to an Indeedee that comes in. So in case you thought Whiscash had any reason to be used, it doesn't. And then Elias immediately gets a very nice turn here. And this indeed is really problematic, because what's going to happen, anytime it wants to use Hyper Voice, is this Ursaring kind of has to come in, but if it's not getting a safe switch in, it is forced to rest immediately after 2 turns. Which sucks, because now you're reliant on good Sleep Talk turns. We're going to see the Scyther come in, which I think is a hilariously ballsy play from Elias. And he's going to Swords Dance up, and he just kind of has to hope. He has to hope that this Mon does not get good Sleep Talk pulls. And that's kind of where the bad luck starts, in a way. This pull of Rest is pretty terrible for ZS, because now the Scyther's got a little bit of a boost advantage. And we see how much Aerialist is doing. Now you got to take another turn to bulk up. And Elias is going to get insanely greedy here. I remember saying, please Swords Dance here on a predicted Rest or something. I thought it was a hilarious turn. And he does still get a KO out of it, but the Ursaring is alive. And he loses the Scyther. Which, I mean, looking at ZS's team, yeah. I would have liked to have a Scyther versus this. SD absolutely farms this build. I guess not, because this is Scarf Scyther, but you get the idea. There's no flying resist. Yeah, Jolteon comes out. Very content to let it take U-turn chip. As the Jolt will Volt Switch here. Now we're going to see a very unfortunate miss. They call him Focus Miss. That sucked. Now, I will say, you didn't ever KO, even if you're modest. You don't do enough, but that would have been super valuable chip for, like, the Scarf Scyther in the end. And so now, you're staring down a full health Sandaconda for the foreseeable future. But, immediately makes up for it. Very nice play with the Zoroark, disguising as Scyther. We're also going to see here a nice knock. This, again, you're just trying to facilitate what you can for your Scyther. The unfortunate reality is you just were paralyzed. And although it's not going to matter, it does maybe make you want to play a little bit differently with the Zoroark now. It's not as enticing to preserve it for later on because it's outsped by, you know, potentially 3 Pokemon on the opposition. So that kind of sucks. Maybe, actually, it should be 4. I think all 4 of these guys would outspeed it. So that sucked. And now you got to burn Terra as well here. Now this turn I got really confused by. Not because of what happened, but because of the chat. So you're going to see right here. You gotta be joking. Now, I may not know the EV spreads. What I will say, if this is fully physically defensive Sandaconda and this is a Jolly Scyther, that shit didn't matter. This was never KOing. If this is just normal Scarf Scyther, and this is like Jolly Scyther, Choice Scarf, and this is full Fizz Def, you actually never KO'd. Now maybe it was a rounding thing. You did, I believe, 36.7-ish max? I think it was the max roll, and the Sandaconda was at 37. So unless he was like adamant, and there was a damage roll, or the Sandaconda had some speed, I don't think this roll was this was actually a roll. So, you know, maybe I'll ask ZS later. Because I don't know what his Scyther set is entirely, but for those wondering at home if that was just a bad damage roll, standard sets assumed no. You know, the Ursaring now always has to be what comes out versus Jolteon. This sucks. Because you're always, again, you're forced these unfavorable rest loops. He will get this turn right. This turn, for some reason, we see the Psyshock. I think just not wanting to risk Ursaring staying in and going for, like, Sleep Talk Fish on a predicted H-Voice. Because we saw Ursaring still takes it okay. You know, it's like a potential 3-hit KO, but you're able to greed maybe one turn. And, you know, getting player off chip on this could always be good for later. But instead, he just switches hard into the Psyshock. And he gets Ursaring right back in as Jolteon comes out. Very nice 2 turns by ZS, as he's now going to be able to safely Sleep Talk, potentially pull a play rough here. And now, look at all that damage on Indeed. You see now why Elias didn't want to risk this thing staying in. Now this turn he knows, alright, let's not mess around. Let's just attack what's in front of us. He just H-Voices. Scyther will always come in now. And it's time for Cacturn to go superhero mode, because this Mon is going to save Elias from potentially losing. Terra Poison, no longer worried about player off just obliterating everything he loves in life. These flinches are terrible, by the way. You could have gotten a rest off on either of those. Now you gotta do this really awkward sequence that involves losing your Scyther practically. And I'm here to tell you, it doesn't get better. This Cacturn is always switching into the Ursaring, and it's never losing because of one simple move. Encore. And there is officially nothing ZS can do about this. I said nothing. This game was actually still winnable for ZS, I would say, for a good amount of the time. But you had to get every Encore turn right versus this Cacturn, and that was always going to be a pretty tall task. You see the rest power points already down to 4. And Cacturn is able to basically force 2 rests every time Ursaring uses rest to recover HP. Because it rests up here, and then you Encore lock it into rest, so it can't sleep talk. And if he stays in on that last turn, you know, right here, if you stay in, what happens is this guy could just Dark Pulse if he wants. I don't know why he didn't Dark Pulse here. The Scyther could always come out. I don't know why T-Spike was the turn. I would have, again, this play actually made no sense at all. Dark Pulse, you always just Dark Pulse because you don't want to let Scyther potentially come in and then have it double into the Ursaring. But I guess he could play pretty safely anyway because it's very hard to lose this game. But as you can see, he rested it up from 4 and he had to burn another. He has to burn another now because of the Encore lock. He was still locked in right here. I think that was the thing. He just wanted to keep that, you know, that explains. He just wanted to keep this thing locked into Encore, and he kept him at, okay, he kept it at full so that this thing would be resting and not actually getting anything out of it. We're good. And now Spell comes back in. It has 1 rest. Officially, there's like nothing you can do about it. I would have probably bulked up there, but it realistically does nothing for you. He bulks up here. And we already know what's about to happen. This Cacturn's going to say, hello, I like that so much, do it again. Basically stealing the Ursaring's launch money. And yeah, a bit of an unfortunate way for this final series to end. Given this game was not exactly clean. Elias, you know, a great example of how language sometimes, you know, the meaning of what you say transcends the language you say it in. I think we all know what these words mean. Definitely a little lucky in this last one. You know what? I think after the Dunsparce luck in game 2, there was bound to be a little bit of regression to the mean. Because wow, was that game just devastating to watch. But yeah, Elias Sai is 1 NU Swiss. So, little golf clap for you. And now, the next current NU tournament, which, as I said, it's current, I believe it's going on, is NU Open, part of Grand Slam, the big major Smogon singles tour that features every single lower tier, leads to eventually a playoffs where people play, I think, a best of 5, featuring every lower tier. It's not even just lower tiers, because you got Ubers, LC, PU, I believe, is in it, NU, RU, UU, so I just named like 6. Sounds right, though. And I hope y'all enjoyed this. Shoutouts to the French community. Very, very nice banter going on in the chat. Until next time, enjoy your day. Drink water. I'll see you next time. Peace.